Good Shabbos again, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you with us, whether you're here in the Bark Sanctuary or watching from the comfort of your home. QAnon. You may have heard of QAnon, you probably have, but you may not be sure what it is. QAnon is a loosely organized network and community of believers who embrace a range of outlandish beliefs. Their views center around the idea that a group of Satan-worshiping pedophiles, mainly consisting of what they see as elitist politicians, journalists, entertainment moguls, and other institutional figures, have long controlled much of our government, mostly with the aid of media and entertainment outlets. They also drink the blood of children. It's an unmistakable echo of the classic anti-Semitic blood libel. The myth that Jews murdered Christian children and used their blood for religious rituals. The world's oldest conspiracy, dating back to the Middle Ages. To no one's surprise, there's plenty of anti-Semitic rhetoric found in the QAnon movement. Some of QAnon's followers have called for arrests and violence against their perceived enemies. The FBI has identified QAnon as a potential domestic terrorist threat. How could millions of modern-day Americans embrace outrageous and dangerous groups like QAnon? Today, more and more of our fellow Americans are doing so. And there are two central reasons. One, we are approaching one of the most contentious elections in American history. And two, conspiracy theories have increased in popularity since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, as people have spent more time at home and in front of screens, on phones, tablets, and computers. Today, thanks to social media, even the strangest conspiracy theories can be spread quickly across the country. Social media streams are a megaphone that history's worst anti-Semites and purveyors of hate could have only dreamed about. For example, let's look at one of our nation's largest and most important social media companies, Facebook. Facebook has become our modern-day American town square. What is seen on Facebook is read by countless Americans every single day. After months and months of stalling, Facebook said earlier this month that it would finally ban any group and any page devoted to QAnon, but not before pushing it to millions of Americans. What took Facebook so long? Yes, I love using Facebook to promote synagogue programs, or post pictures of my children on their birthdays, or show a picture of our new puppy. It got hundreds of likes. She's pretty cute. Who doesn't love these things about Facebook? But there's another side to Facebook. You may not know it. You probably don't even realize it. But we, the users of Facebook, are the products of Facebook. Facebook doesn't make anything. It makes users. It makes people. It makes people who, hopefully, to Facebook, spend more and more time on Facebook. Facebook sells its users, people like you and me, to their advertisers. The more of us who view content on Facebook, and the longer we stay on Facebook, the more profitable Facebook becomes. Therefore, Facebook's profit-oriented algorithm deliberately amplifies content that generates more engagement. Its business model relies on viral content to bring in users who they then can show ads to. One unnamed Facebook executive recently disclosed and put it best: extremism is always more engaging because it triggers those strong emotions of anger, fear, and hate. emotions that encourage us to spend even more time on Facebook. And the more time on Facebook, the more money Facebook makes. No, it's not to say that all people who work for Facebook have no souls. Social media firms like Facebook face a dilemma. They may want to do the right thing, but stopping messages of hate from going viral runs counter to the business model they use. The platforms are designed to put posts that attract a lot of attention, that create those emotions, that are sensational in front of lots of people. And tamping down on misinformation, even when it's full of hate and call to arms, to violence against innocent groups, tamping down on that misinformation runs completely counter to the profitable business model that social media companies like Twitter and Facebook use. Not surprisingly, on most days, the top Facebook posts are from extremist groups. My friends, for more insight into how social media companies really work, I highly recommend you watch the Netflix movie, The Social Dilemma. I watched it this past year for this sermon. And this documentary drama explores the dangerous human impact that social networking is happening, with tech experts sounding the alarm on their own creations. After watching the movie, you may end up forever banning your children from social media and even throwing away their smartphones. My apologies to our B'nai Mitzvah students. Vibrant democracies rely on rational people acting in response to credible information. Since the dawn of social media, more and more Americans are not getting credible information. Instead, as we approach a contentious election, we see a witch's brew of hate, lies, and conspiracies spewed by radicals and purposely spread by social media. This toxic brew has exploded into the open, and these conspiracies threaten to kill more innocents. And as we approach this contentious election, they threaten to even kill democracy as we know it. Am I overreacting? Rabbi, these are just fake stories online, mere words. Let us remember one of the central lessons of this week's Torah reading. In the beginning, through his words alone, God creates life. But a few chapters later, through its mere words, the snake creates death. Through its deceptive arguments and lies, the snake convinces Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. Words can bring about life, or words can bring about death. Permitting and spreading content that perpetuates hate, violence, and misinformation on voting sows division and leads to real-life violence. Conspiracy theorists on both sides of the aisle and other bad actors are using social media like Facebook to aggressively target communities with disinformation. And these disinformation campaigns frequently invoke anti-Semitism, and they're designed to sow chaos, to shatter faith in the voting process, and to undermine public trust in the election. In these next crucial weeks, can we expect our social media companies to hold the line before and after the election? I'm not so sure. Is there anything we can do to help? Let's talk for a moment about Facebook. Again, astonishingly, until this past week, Facebook continued to give a platform to the worst of humanity, to Holocaust deniers, people who actually deny that 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis during World War II. After years and years of campaigning, Facebook finally announced on Monday that it would now ban content that denies or distorts the Holocaust from its social media platform. It was a reversal of a controversial policy that didn't remove Holocaust denial-related content. This new policy represents a direct reversal of what Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said 2 years ago in 2018. Back then, he didn't think Holocaust deniers were intentionally getting it wrong, and that as long as their posts were not calling for specific harm or violence, he felt that even offensive content like Holocaust denial should be protected. After an international outcry 2 years ago, Zuckerberg, who is Jewish, clarified that he personally found Holocaust denial deeply offensive, but he believed the best way to fight offensive bad speech is with good speech. So why the reversal 2 years later that led to the Facebook ban this past week? Zuckerberg claimed an evolution in his thinking. Noting the current rise in anti-Semitism, he finally acknowledged that hate speech can lead directly to violence and murder. But Zuckerberg is a smart guy. Any first grader knows the dangerous hate speech leads to violence. Zuckerberg knew 2 years ago how dangerous hate speech, such as Holocaust revisionism, could be. Maybe he finally saw the light, or maybe it was the intense pressure put on Facebook and its advertisers to change its policy. Pressure from survivors, from Holocaust museums, from Jewish organizations like ADL and AJC, and online petitions and open letters signed by Jews and rabbis like myself. An open letter from thousands of rabbis ran as an ad in Jewish papers, including the Northern California Jewish Weekly near Facebook's headquarters. Facebook is a business, and if enough good people raise their voices to pressure social media companies to do the right thing, change can occur. And it doesn't hurt, maybe even more importantly, to pressure the advertisers to withhold their ads unless companies like Facebook make the positive changes they need to make. I believe we can and should expect more from social media companies who can literally save lives by being less profit-driven and more socially conscious. There is still a lot more work Facebook can do. After Shabbat, check out the Stop Hate for Profit campaign. It's stophateforprofit.org. This campaign demands that Facebook adopt the following changes in time for the U.S. presidential election. Take down groups focused on white supremacy, anti-Semitism, and violent conspiracies. Increase resources focused on monitoring groups for hate speech and violence. Change platform policy to forbid any page with a call to arms. And when it comes to the upcoming election, this campaign demands that Facebook ensure accuracy in political and voting matters by eliminating the political exemption. Remove misinformation related to voting that has been debunked by credible fact checkers, and prohibit calls to violence by politicians in any format. Facebook has repeatedly failed to block disinformation and refuses to implement basic reforms advocated by this worthwhile campaign. Yes, we can and should expect more. If we're going to use Facebook, many of us on a daily basis, we should expect more from a company that has really become the American town square. So I encourage you to join this campaign. As we head into the final 17 days of voting, it's critical for people like you and me to take a stand, especially as Jews. You can make a difference. This morning, as we celebrate the creation of the world, let us remember Words can bring about life, or words can bring about death. Shabbat Shalom.